What is up, everybody? Angry Narwhal here, doing another Stanley Parable. I don't know how much more there is to the game, but we're gonna keep trying until we end up hitting a bunch of repeats. Oh, I don't like this. Oh my god. I don't know how I should feel about that. I really don't.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Stanley
Bucket.
picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door. This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
Alright, I'm gonna jump
But
off
Stanley
the
had
platform
felt the
and
bucket
die and
calling
see what
to him,
happens.
telling him that
See
the
if he blames the
employee
bucket.
lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo...
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Okay, so it did have a
All of
different
his
thing for bucket
co-workers
death.
were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his...
No.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was no...
Nope.
Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was
You know we're not
speaking
gonna
to him.
listen.
It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Did I? Because I definitely didn't do what the bucket asked.
No, stop. Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless... What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point.
There's no way
which,
that was
if
there.
that's true, well, my goodness. I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly.
Yeah, burn the
So
sign.
much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket.
Bucket is
Please,
life.
Step in here for a moment.
But I like the bucket. Oh god.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simply
Oh
enough,
no.
right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket?
Guys,
Okay,
just
let's
know
begin.
everything's gonna be a bucket.
Item 1. Is this a bucket?
Yes.
Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Now everything's gonna be a bucket, whether it is a bucket or not.
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. This is a bucket.
Everything's a bucket. That's a bucket. Oh yeah, it's a
Item
bucket.
4.
Yes,
Is
that's a
this
bucket. That is a bucket.
Are you hallucinating? This is a
It's a-
tractor.
no,
it's
it's a
an enormous
bucket.
machine
Look
that
at it.
tills the
Look
earth.
at
I
it.
thought
It
this
is
was a
a
gimmick.
bucket.
How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely
bucket.
incredible. Let's
This is a
just
bucket.
move on to the next one.
That's a bucket. Bucket.
Is this a bucket?
Bucket, 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 bucket. Yes.
Correct. This is a bucket.
I was right. See? Bucket.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Bucket.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
How is both?
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
It's a bucket. It's a bucket.
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't
It's right
appreciate
there.
the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly
Is
know that
this
a
a
bucket
bucket?
is something. And
That is a-
therefore
it's right
nothing
there.
could possibly be
I'm
something.
answering this
Unless
question.
in your twisted mind have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me
I'm
straight, Stanley.
convinced
Do you believe that
that I'm
nothing
answering
is a bucket?
this question.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is?
I do.
Am I
Right there.
a bucket?
I was answering
Stanley,
this
I can't
question.
keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with.
Is he a
I'm
bucket?
afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
No. 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 No.
What
If they
happened?
took away my bucket, I'm
everything
gonna
gone?
cry.
Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket?
Yes.
Every single thing in the game was a bucket.
Yes.
Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either.
Bullshit.
Oh,
We're
this
all
is
buckets.
Wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue.
You took
but
my
it doesn't
bucket.
change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what. I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right,
It's
here
all
we go.
about the bucket. I don't know who you think you are. It is all
All
about
of his
buckets.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Bucket. Hey.
Where
Bucket.
are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfect. Stanley clutched the bucket.
I also
tightly
wanna
to
see what
his
happens if I
chest.
answer the
This was not
phone.
the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
No.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes, good,
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
That's the
Stanley
plan.
did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley
Buckets
chose
are
not
everything.
to think about this obvious
Therefore, buckets
fact.
can talk.
He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
I mean, again, like I said last time, if I obey him blindly, why wouldn't I obey the bucket blindly?
Now pick up the phone.
Hello? Is this the buckets?
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I
Bucket?
gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
This bucket. Bucket! You understand me? It's me, your bucket. Press square to take me to work with you. Yes.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Back home with bucket.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him
No.
delusional like this, obsessing over an
Aw,
inanimate
well,
metal object? I want to say something
it's
to him, but I don't
buckets.
know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Did I get the bucket ending? Back to work.
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
Yeah, but it's property of Stanley. Don't listen to the loud man. Press X to go back home.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now
I
all he
trust
cares
you.
about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
No, say, didn't let me set the time this time, and now there's no time on the clock. Coincidence? I think not. Press X to ignore anyone in your life except for me. X.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
That's because bucket is life. Where? Oh, so worried. Thank you. You believe I'm real, don't you, Stanley? Yes.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store
Oh, yeah,
bucket.
we watch TV together.
It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more
Oh,
capable
that's it on
of
the floor, it's
transporting
fine.
liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one
There we go.
room to
There we
another.
go. On the couch with the bucket. How you doing, bucket? Press triangle to relive the same day with me over and over again.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some
Not
need to
just a
point out the ways
bucket.
in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Go home to work to home to work to home. Yes.
Oh no. I'm having feelings. The
Bedroom.
bucket.
Bedroom
No,
bucket.
No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps
First
if
off-
I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket
No.
could tell me what to
Don't
do
you-
in this
don't you
troublesome
dare.
situation.
Don't. No.
Stanley, give me the
No.
bucket. Give it
No.
to me. Give me the
No.
bucket, Stanley.
No.
I need
No.
it.
No.
Give it to me
Trap.
now.
No.
Give it, or
no.
I'll...
No. It's my bucket. No. Not without my bucket.
All of his co-workers were gone. What
Bucket.
could it mean? Stanley decided
Bucket.
to go to the meeting
Bucket's
room.
here still.
A good bucket.
Bucket.
A strong bucket. A humble bucket. A committed bucket. A bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
You know we're gonna have to do the infinite loop with the bucket, right? Broom
Stanley,
closet.
we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers.
I want a sticker. I want more. Alright, we're
Coming
going
to
to
a
the loop.
staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Nope, going with the bucket.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all.
Bullshit, the bucket was
That's
talking to me
strange,
earlier.
Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone
Excuse
else's
me?
bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong.
Oh, hell
Surely
no.
no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre
Bucket.
hallucinations
Bucket.
Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his
Bucket.
bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd.
Bucket.
Now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Bucket.
Stanley!
Bucket.
Stanley, it's
Bucket.
me! The bucket!
Where's my bucket?
Could it truly be? He
Bucket.
rushed forward from
Bucket.
room to
Bucket.
room, passing
Bucket.
by
Not
one
mine. Not
bucket
mine.
after the
Not mine.
next.
Not
None
mine.
of them
Nope.
were his.
Nope.
None of them
Nope.
were his
Nope.
special
Nope.
bucket.
Nope. Nope.
Come
Says
to
property
me,
Stanley.
Stanley!
Where's my bucket?
Find me!
Where's my bucket?
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity.
Where's my
And then
bucket?
suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks.
No.
He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along.
Kinky?
It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
No, I want a bucket. Guys, where's my bucket?
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Not Mariella
Mariella
again.
woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the
I
body
swear
of a
to
man
God, if that's
who
my
had
bucket.
stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him.
I miss
Perhaps
my
he
bucket.
didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be.
No, the narrator stole my
And she
bucket.
hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
But my bucket.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
The embrace of an
No,
old
my
friend.
bucket. I
The
thought it was
withered
gonna be gone
companionship
forever.
That stands the test of time.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Alright, let's see here. Let's see here.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
You bitch. Elevator bucket. Elevator bucket. Okay, no extra commentary for elevator bucket.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Bucket. I know this has basically been the entire video for the last two videos.
The elevator raced down,
the story of buckets,
plummeting towards an unknown fate.
but it's different
It would
now.
be all Stanley
I
could
have
do
the
to keep
comfort
himself
bucket with
together,
stickers.
if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read,
Nope.
Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall,
bucket will save
Stanley
me.
and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
The bucket will save me.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this
the
point,
bucket will
Stanley
save
and
me.
the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Nah, we're gonna see what happens when I walk in here with the bucket. All right, bucket, you ready for this? Let's go. Bucket, it's okay. We'll get through this. I have you, bucket.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere.
Bullshit.
Farewell,
Bucket is friend.
Stanley.
Bucket is friend. Bucket will save me.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end
No.
as it was crushed violently to death.
No, I won't let that happen. I will protect Bucket. It's the last thing I do. I will protect Bucket.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that
Facts.
all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
The Bucket welcomes you to the grand exhibit. Jesus. You guys can pause the video anytime you want to read some of these. I am not going to
Can you
waste that
see
much
how
time.
arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his
Bucket.
own? Can you
Where's
see the
mine?
hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Dog, there's way more than 25 buckets. Bye, bucket. The ancestral bucket. Unga bunga. Oh. Oh, bucket. Oh. Oh, bucket. Oh. Oh, pick a bucket. Pick water with bucket. Dance around the bucket. Feed animal with bucket. Carry bucket, new home. Praise bucket. Oh. Sorry,
No man
what happened?
can own a bucket, and certainly
happened?
not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel
me in.
before the bucket.
Let me in. There's a shiny bucket. Let me in. Oh, that's a hole. Wait, can I walk across? I love you, crazy. Fuck. Let me touch the bucket.
But there is something we can do.
I got very
Something we can
excited.
do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong.
What's that?
Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment
what
as
if I
tools and
do?
implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Should I do it? I'll see what happens. I'll see what happens. I die with the bucket like a true gentleman.
All of his co-workers were gone.
What if I
What
walk
could it
past the
mean?
bucket? Does he say anything?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Can I ignore the bucket?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge.
Okay, there's nothing different on that. Begin the game again. We're gonna grab the bucket, and we're gonna go the wrong way. What?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference. The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things.
Dog mode. Dog mode. Yes! Every time I click is now puppies.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Put
And
bark
here
mode.
it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the 2 of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Got the whiteboard ending with the dog mode.
Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd
Oh, what
find
the
this
fuck?
place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never
I
seen
want
before.
the bucket.
Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
But what if, right? What if we go to the broom closet instead? I'm gonna keep barking.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Adventure music, let's go! Da, 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 da. How did I know it was gonna do that?
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
Don't you fucking dare say it's gonna be the bucket. I will leave. Don't you dare. I will reset this game so fast. Hope you guys
Don't you
like
get it,
dogs barking.
Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
No.
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
How about I fucking don't?
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't
I'm not
know
gonna
what the
give up
Bucket
the
Destroyer
bucket.
will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you
Everything's
were to
angry.
really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back
I
to the
refuse.
classic Stanley Parable characters
No.
like the Adventure Line or the Bucket
Don't.
Destroyer
Don't
until
do
you
this to me.
crush that damn bucket. Quickly
not crushing
now.
the bucket.
The fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give
I'm not
the
gonna do it.
fans
Fuck
what
the
they
fans.
want. Hurry and...
Ow! It's my bucket. I refuse to betray the bucket.
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you.
No, you're
all
just
of
gonna
it
hurt my
squandered
bucket.
now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Hey, next time you try to fucking touch my bucket. Not happening. No, not gonna break my bucket. I might crush it this time though.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
All right, I'm
Stanley
gonna do one
decided to
more.
go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow.
Let's see what
Very
happens
lucky
real quick.
indeed.
Real quick. We'll do this very fast.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
Gonna do the
But
same
Stanley
story
had
path.
felt the bucket calling to him.
Let's see what happens if I
telling
do
him
throw the
that
bucket in.
employee lounge was
And if
simply
it
the
deletes
place
the
to
bucket
be.
permanently,
And
this
here
will
it
be the
was.
last
Had
video.
the
That's all I'm
bucket turned out
saying.
to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to... And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Oompa loompa doopity doo.
Oh, good, Stanley.
gonna
I'm
go
glad you
down
found your
here
way here.
with
I
you.
knew you'd find this place eventually.
Kid, you're my best friend.
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, that's... Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all
We're gonna
those
do it
great
this time.
jokes
We're
from
gonna
the
crush the
original
bucket.
dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
I really don't want to.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley
How about jump in
Parable.
it
True,
with the bucket?
it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
Bye, bucket.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying
I'm actually
buckets is
trying
all it
to-
knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality
Bro.
trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters?
Okay, so it won't let me put the bucket in. Which is good, because I don't want to actually destroy the bucket. Thank you guys all for watching. This has been the angriest of narwhals. Fighting over a bucket, apparently. Yeah, that's a thing. Feel free to jump up on the Discord and Twitch. I also will be trying to potentially post more on there, just to try to get as much notifications as possible out there so everybody can enjoy watching these videos and whatnot. And feel free to join the Narwhal Nation by hitting that like and subscribe button, and let me know you guys are enjoying the content. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and goodbye.